Hey guys, it's Emil here. I was gonna start a book series a couple nights ago, but since I'm recording this at night when most of my house is asleep, I just ain't never got to it yet. Uh, the book I'm gonna be doing is, well, the series I'm gonna be doing is a close favorite of mine. It's the Night World series by L.J. Smith. I fell in love with this when I was like a tween, so some of the romantic aspects of it is pretty cringy, but hey, sometimes life is cringy, so I can't hate it. The summary of the book is basically this: The night world. Love has never been so dangerous. The night world isn't a place, it's all around us. The creatures of night world are beautiful and deadly and irresistible to humans. Your best friend could be one. So could your crush. The laws of night world are very clear. Humans must never learn that night world exists, and members of night world must never fall in love with a human. Violate the laws, and the consequences are terrifying. These are the stories about what happens when the rules get broken. Book 1: Secret Vampire. For Marilyn Marlowe, a marvel of an agent, and with Jinx to Jeannie Danick and the other wonderful nurses like her. Chapter 1. It was on the first day of summer vacation that Poppy found out she was going to die. It happened on Monday, the first real day of vacation. The weekend didn't count. Poppy woke up feeling gloriously weightless and thought, no school. Sunlight was streaming through the window, turning the sheer hangings around her bed filmy gold. Poppy pushed them aside and jumped out of bed and winced. Ow! The pain in her stomach again, sort of gnawing, as if something were eating its way towards her back. It helped a little if she bent over. No, Poppy thought. I refuse to be sick during summer vacation. I refuse. A little positive thinking is what's needed here. Grimly doubled over. Think positive, idiot. She made her way down the hall to the turquoise and gold tiled bathroom. At first, she thought she was going to throw up, but then the pain eased as suddenly as it had come. Poppy straightened and regarded her tasseled reflection triumphantly. Stick with me, kid, and you'll be fine, she whispered to it and gave a conspiratorial wink. Then she leaned forward, seeing her own green eyes narrow in suspicion. There on her nose was 4 freckles. 4.5, if she was completely honest, which Poppy North usually was. How childish, how cute. Poppy stuck her tongue out at herself, then turned away with great dignity, without bothering to comb the wild coppery curls that clustered over her head. She maintained the dignity until she got to the kitchen, where Philip, her twin brother, was eating Special K. Then she narrowed her eyes again. This time at him. It was bad enough to be small and slight and curly hair, to look, in fact, as much as an elf as anything she had ever seen sitting on a buttercup in children's picture books. But to have a twin who's tall, Viking blonde, and classically handsome, well, that just showed a certain deliberate malice in the makeup of the universe, didn't it? Hello, Philip, she said in a voice heavy with menace. Philip, who was used to his sister's mood, was unimpressed. He lifted his gaze from the comic section of LA Times for a moment. Poppy had to admit, he had nice eyes. Questing green eyes with dark lashes. They were the only things the twins had in common. Hi, Philip said flatly, and went back to the comics. Not many kids Poppy knew read the newspaper, but that was Phil all over. Like Poppy, he'd been a junior at El Camino High last year, and unlike Poppy, He'd made straight A's while starring on the football team, the hockey team, and the baseball team, also serving as class president. One of Poppy's greatest joys in life was teasing him. She thought he was too straight-laced. Just now she giggled and shrugged, giving up the menacing look. Where's Cliff and Mom? Cliff Hilgard was their stepfather of 3 years and even straighter-laced than Phil. Cliff's at work. Mom's getting dressed. You better eat something or she'll get on your case. Yeah. Poppy went tiptoeing to rummage through the cupboard. Finding a box of Frosted Flakes, they thrust a hand in and delicately pulled out one flake, and she ate it dry. It wasn't all bad being short and elfin. She did a few dance steps to the refrigerator, shaking the cereal box in rhythm. I'm a sex pixie, she sang, giving it a foot stomp rhythm. No, you're not, Philip said with devastating calm. And why don't you put some clothes on? Holding the fridge door open, Poppy looked down at herself. She was wearing the oversized t-shirt she slept in, and it covered her like a mini dress. This is clothes, she said serenely, taking a Diet Coke from the fridge. There was a knock at the kitchen door, and Poppy saw who it was through the screen. Hi, James. Come on in. James Rasmussen came in, taking off his wraparound Ray-Bans. Looking at him, Poppy felt a pang, as always. It didn't matter that she had seen him every day, practically for the past 10 years. She still felt a quick, sharp throb in her chest, somewhere between sweetness and pain, when first confronted by him every morning. It wasn't just his outlaw good looks, which always reminded her vaguely of James Dean. He had silky, light brown hair, with a stubble, an intelligent face, and gray eyes that were alternatively intense and cool. He was the handsomest boy at El Camino High, but that wasn't it. That wasn't what Poppy responded to. It was something inside of him, something mysterious and compelling, and always just out of reach. It made her heart beat fast and her skin tingle. Philip felt differently. As soon as James came in, he stiffened and his face went cold. Electric dislike flashed between the two boys. Then James smiled faintly, as if his reaction amused him. Hi, Phil said, not thawing in the least. Poppy had the strong sense that he'd like to bundle her up and rush her out of the room. Philip always overdid the protection brother bit when James was around. So, how's Jacqueline and Michaela? He added nastily. James considered. Well, I don't really know. You don't know? Oh yeah, you always drop your girlfriends just before summer vacation. Leaves you free to maneuver, right? Of course, James said blandly. He smiled. Philip glared at him with unabashed hatred. Poppy, for her part, was seized by joy. Goodbye, Jacqueline. Goodbye, Michaela. Goodbye to Jacqueline's elegant long legs, and goodbye to Michaela's amazing pneumatic chest. This was going to be a wonderful summer. Many people thought Poppy and James' relationship was platonic. That wasn't true. Poppy had known for years that she was going to marry him. It was one of her two greatest ambitions, the other being see the world. She just hasn't gotten around to informing James yet. Right now, she still thought he liked long-legged girls with salon fingers and Italian pumps. Is that a new CD? She said to distract him from his stare out with his future brother-in-law. James hefted it. It's the new ethno-techno release. Poppy cheered. More tuba throat singers. I can't wait. Let's go listen to it. But just then, her mother walked in. Poppy's mother was cool, blonde, and perfect, like an Alfred Hitchcock heroine. She normally wore an expression of effortless efficiency. Poppy, heading out of the kitchen, nearly ran into her. Sorry, morning. Hold a minute, Poppy's mother said, getting a hold of Poppy by the back of her t-shirt. Good morning, Phil. Good morning, James, she added. Phil said good morning, and James nodded, ironically polite. Has everyone had breakfast? Poppy's mother asked, and when the boys said they had, she looked at her daughter. And what about you? She asked, gazing into Poppy's face. She rattled the Frosted Flakes box, and her mother winced. Why don't you at least put milk on them? Better this way, Poppy said warmly, but her mother gave her a little push towards the fridge. She went and got a quart carton of low-fat milk. What are you planning to do with your first day of freedom? Her mother said, glancing from James to Poppy. I don't know. Poppy looked at James. Listen to some music, maybe go up the hills, or drive to the beach. Whatever you want, James said. We've got all summer. The summer stretched out in front of Poppy, hot and golden and repulsant. It smelled like a pool of chlorine and sea salt. Felt like warm grass under her back. 3 whole months, she thought. That's forever. 3 months is forever. It was strange that she was actually thinking this when it happened. We could check out the new shops at the village. She was beginning when suddenly pain struck and her breath was caught in her throat. It was bad. A deep, twisting burst of agony that made her double over. The milk carton flew from her fingers and everything went gray. Chapter 2. Poppy! Poppy could hear her mother's voice, but she couldn't see anything. The kitchen floor was obscured by dancing black dots. Poppy, are you all right? Now, Poppy felt her mother's hand grasping her upper arms, holding her anxiously. The pain was easing, and her vision was coming back. As she straightened up, she saw James in front of her. His face was almost expressionless, but Poppy knew him well enough to recognize the worry in his eyes. He was holding the milk carton. She realized he must have caught it on the fly as she dropped it. Amazing reflexes, Poppy thought vaguely. Really amazing. Philip was on his feet. Are you okay? What happened? I don't know. Poppy looked around and then shrugged, embarrassed. Now that she felt better, she wished they weren't all staring at her so hard. The way to deal with pain was to ignore it, not think about it. It's just a stupid pain. I think it's whatchamacallit, something I ate. Poppy's mother gave her daughter the barest fraction of a shake. Poppy, that's not gastroenteritis. You were having some pain before. Nearly a month, wasn't it? Is this the same kind of pain? Poppy squirmed uncomfortably. As a matter of fact, the pain had never really gone away. Somehow, in the excitement of end-of-year activities, she managed to disregard it, and now she was used to working around it. Sort of, she temporized, but that was enough for Poppy's mother. She gave Poppy a little squeeze and headed for the kitchen telephone. I know you don't like doctors, but I'm calling Dr. Franklin. I want him to take a look at you. This isn't something that we can ignore. Oh, Mom, it's vacation. Her mother covered the mouthpiece of the phone. Poppy, this is non-negotiable. Go get dressed. Poppy groaned, but she could see it was no use. She beckoned to James, who was looking thoughtfully in the middle distance. Let's at least listen to the CD before I have to go. He glanced at the CD as if he'd forgotten it and put down the milk carton. Philip followed them into the hallway. Hey, buddy, you wait out here while she gets dressed. James barely turned. Get a life, Phil, he said almost absently. Just keep your hands off my sister, you div. Poppy just shook her head as she went into her room, as if James cared about seeing her undressed. If only, she thought grimly, Pulling a pair of shorts out of the drawer, she stepped into them, still shaking her head. James was her best friend, her very best friend, and she was his. But he'd never shown even the slightest desire to get her hands on her. Sometimes he wondered if he realized she was a girl. Someday I'm going to make him see, she thought, and shouted out the door for him. James came in and smiled at her. It was a smile other people rarely saw, not a taunting or ironic grin, but a nice little smile, slightly crooked. Sorry about the doctor thing, Poppy said. No, you should go. James gave her a keen glance. Your mom's right, you know. This has been going on way too long. You've lost weight. It's keeping you up at night. Poppy looked at him, startled. She hadn't told anyone about how the pain was worse at night. Not even James. But sometimes James just knew things, as if he could read her mind. I just know you, that's all, he said, then gave her a mischievous sideways glance as she stared at him. He unwrapped the CD. Poppy shrugged and flopped on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Anyway, I wish Mom would let me have one day of vacation, she said. She craned her neck to look at James speculatively. I wish I had a mom like yours. Mine's always worrying and trying to fix me. And mine doesn't really care if I come or go, so which is worse, James said wryly. Your parents let you have your own apartment in a building they own, because it's cheaper than hiring a manager. James shook his head, his eyes on the CD he was putting in the player. Don't knock your parents, kid. You're luckier than you know. Poppy thought about that as the CD started. She and James both liked trance, underground electronic sounds that come from Europe. James liked the techno beat. Poppy loved it because it was real music, raw, unpasteurized, made by people who believed in it, people who had the passion, not the money. Besides, the world of music made her feel part of other places. She loved the difference of it, the alienness. Come to think of it, maybe that's why she liked about James too, his differentness. She tilted her head to look at him as the strange rhythms of Burundi drumming filled the air. She knew James better than anyone, but there was always something about him that was closed off to her, something about him that nobody could reach. Other people took it for arrogance, or coolness, or aloofness, but it really wasn't any of those things. It was just differentness. He was more different than any of the exchange students at school, time after time. Poppy felt she almost put her finger on the difference, but we slipped away. And more than once, especially late at night when they were listening to music or watching the ocean, she'd felt he was about to tell her, and she'd always felt that if he did tell her, it would have been something important, something as shocking and lovely as having a stray cat speak to her. Just now, she looked at James, at his clean, carven profile, and at the brown waves of hair on his forehead, and thought, he looks sad. Jamie, nothing's wrong, is it? I mean, at home or anything? She was the only person on the planet allowed to call him Jamie. Not even Jacqueline or Michaela had ever tried that. What could be wrong at home? He said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then he shook his head dismissively. Don't worry about it, Poppy. It's not that important. Just a relative threatening to visit. An unwanted relative. Then the smile did reach his eyes, glinting there. Or maybe I'm just worried about you, he said. Poppy started to say, oh, as if, but found herself saying oddly, are you really? Her seriousness seemed to strike some chord. His smile disappeared, and Poppy found that they were simply looking at each other, without any insulting humor between them. Just gazing into each other's eyes, James looked uncertain, almost vulnerable. Poppy. Poppy swallowed. Yes? He opened his mouth, and then he got up abruptly and went to adjust her 170-watt tall boy speakers. When he turned around, his gray eyes were dark and fathomless. Sure, if you were really sick, I'd be worried, he said lightly. That's what friends are for, right? Poppy deflated. Right, she said wistfully, and then gave him a determined smile. But you're not sick, he said. It's just something you need to get taken care of. The doctors probably give you some antibiotics or something with a big needle, he added wickedly. Oh, shut up, Poppy said. He knew she was terrified of injections. Just the thought of a needle entering her skin. Here comes your mom, James said, glancing at the door, which was ajar. Poppy didn't see how he could hear anybody coming. The music was loud, the hallway was carpeted. But an instant later, her mom pushed open the door. All right, sweetheart, she said brusquely. Dr. Franklin says come in right away. I'm sorry, James, but I'm going to have to take Poppy away. That's okay. I can come back this afternoon. Poppy knew when she was defeated. She allowed her mom to tow her into the garage, ignoring James' miming of someone receiving a large injection. An hour later, she was lying on Dr. Franklin's examining table, eyes politely averted as his gentle fingers probed her abdomen. Dr. Franklin was tall, lean, and graying, with the air of a country doctor. Somebody you could trust absolutely. Pain is here, he said. Yeah, but it sort of goes into my back. Maybe I just pulled a muscle back there or something. The gentle, probing fingers moved and then stopped. Dr. Franklin's face changed, and somehow, in that moment, Poppy knew it wasn't a pulled muscle. It wasn't an upset stomach. It wasn't anything simple. And things were about to change forever. All Dr. Franklin said was, I'd like to arrange for some tests on this. His voice was dry and thoughtful, but panic curled through Poppy anyway. She couldn't explain what was happening inside her. Some sort of dreadful premonition. Pit was opening on the ground before her. Why? Her mother was asking the doctor. Well, Dr. Franklin smiled and pushed his glasses up. He tapped 2 fingers on the examining table. Just a part of the process of elimination, really. Poppy said she's been having pain in her abdomen, pain that radiates to her back, pain that's worse at night. She's lost her appetite recently, and she's lost weight. And her gallbladder is palpable. That means I can feel that it's enlarged. Now, those symptoms are a lot of things, and a sonogram will help rule out some of them. Poppy calmed down. She couldn't remember what gallbladder did, but she was pretty sure she didn't need it. Anything involving an organ with such a silly name couldn't be serious. Dr. Franklin was going on about the pancreas and pancreatitis and palpable livers, and Poppy's mother was nodding as if she understood. Poppy didn't understand, but the panic was gone. It was as if the cover had been whisked neatly over the black pit, leaving no sign that it had ever been there. You can get a sonogram done at Children's Hospital across the street, Dr. Franklin was saying. Come back here after it's finished. Poppy's mother nodded, calm, serious, and efficient, like Phil or Cliff. Okay, we'll get this taken care of. Poppy just felt slightly important. Nobody she'd know had been to a hospital for a test. Her mother ruffled her hair as they walked out of Dr. Franklin's office. Well, Poppet, what have you done to yourself now? Poppy smiled impishly. She was fully recovered from her earlier worry. Maybe I'll have to have an operation. I'll get an interesting scar, she said to amuse her mother. Let's hope not, her mother said, unamused. The Susan G. Montefort Children's Hospital was a handsome gray building with the sinuous curves and giant picture windows. Poppy looked thoughtfully into the gift shop as they passed it. was clearly a kid's gift shop full of rainbow slinkies and stuffed animals that visiting adults could buy as last-minute presents. A girl came out of the shop. She was a little older than Poppy, maybe 17 or 18. She was pretty, with expertly done makeup, and a cute bandana, which didn't quite conceal the fact she had no hair. She looked happy, round-cheeked, with earrings dangling jauntily beneath the bandana, but Poppy felt a stab of sympathy. Sympathy and fear. That girl was really sick, which was what hospitals were for, of course, for really sick people. Suddenly, Poppy wanted to get her own test over with and get out of here. The sonogram wasn't painful, just vaguely disturbing. The technician smeared some kind of jelly over Poppy's middle, then ran a cold scanner over it, shooting sound waves into her, taking a picture of her insides. Poppy found her mind returning to a pretty girl with no hair. To distract herself, she thought about James. For some reason, what came to her mind was the first time she'd seen James, the day he came into kindergarten. He was a pale, slight boy with big gray eyes. Something subtly weird about him that made the bigger boys start picking on him immediately. On the playground, they ganged up on him like hounds and a fox, until Poppy saw what was happening. And at 5, she had a great right hook. She'd burst into group, slapping faces and kicking shins until the big boys went running. Then she turned to James. "Want to be friends?" After a brief hesitation, he nodded shyly, and there had been something oddly sweet in his smile. But Poppy had soon found out that her friend was strange in small ways. When the class lizard died, he'd pick up the corpse without revulsion and ask Poppy if she wanted to hold it. The teacher had been horrified. He knew where to find dead animals, too. He'd shown her a vacant lot where several rabbit carcasses lay in tall brown grasses. He'd been matter-of-fact about it. When he got older, the big kids stopped picking on him. He grew up to be tall as any of them, and surprisingly strong and quick. And then he developed a reputation for being tough and dangerous. When he got angry, something almost frightening shone in his gray eyes. He never got angry with Poppy, though. They remained best friends all these years. When they reached junior high, he started having girlfriends. All the girls at school wanted him, but he never kept any of them for long, and he never confided in them. To them, he was a mysterious, secret bad boy. Only Poppy saw the other side of him, the vulnerable, caring side. "Okay," the technician said, bringing Poppy back to the present with a jerk. "You're done. Let's wipe this jelly off you." "So, what did it show?" Poppy asked, glancing at the monitor. "Oh, your own doctor would tell you that. The radiologist will read the results and call them over to your doctor's office." The technician's voice was absolutely neutral. So neutral that Poppy looked at her sharply. Back in Dr. Franklin's office, Poppy fidgeted while her mother paged through outdated magazines. The nurse said, "Miss Hilgard." They both stood up. No," the nurse said, looking flustered. "Miss Hilgard, the doctor just wanted to see you for a minute, alone." Poppy and her mother looked at each other. Then slowly Poppy's mother put down her People's Magazine and followed the nurse. Poppy stared after her. "No, what on earth?" Dr. Franklin has never done that before. Poppy realized that her heart was beating hard. Not fast, just hard. Bang, bang, bang in the middle of her chest, shaking her insides, making her feel unreal and giddy. "Don't think about it. It's probably nothing. Read a magazine." But her fingers didn't want to work properly. When she finally got the magazine open, her eyes ran over the words without delivering them to her brain. What are they talking about in there? What's going on? It's been so long. It kept getting longer. As Poppy waited, she found herself vacillating between two modes of thought. One, Nothing was seriously wrong with her, and her mother was going to come out and laugh at her for even imagining there was. And 2, something awful was wrong with her, and she was going to have to go through some general treatment to get well. They covered pit and open pit. When the pit was covered, it seemed laughable, and she felt embarrassed for having such melodramatic thoughts. But when it was open, she felt as if all her life before this had been a dream, and now she was hitting reality hard. I wish I could call James, she thought. At last the nurse said, "Poppy, come on in." Dr. Franklin's office was wood-paneled, with certificates and diplomas hanging on the wall. Poppy sat down in the leather chair and tried not to be too obvious about scanning her mother's face. Her mother looked too calm with strain underneath. She was smiling, but it was odd, slightly unsteady smile. Oh God, Poppy thought. Something is going on. Now, there's no cause for alarm, the doctor said. And immediately, Poppy became more alarmed. Her palms stuck to the leather of the armchair. Something showed up in your sonogram that's a little unusual, and I'd like to do a couple of other tests, Dr. Franklin said. His voice slow and measured, soothing. One of the tests requires that you fast from midnight the day before you take it. But your mom said you didn't eat breakfast today. Poppy said mechanically. I ate one frosted flake. One frosted flake? Well, I think that can count as fasting. We'll do the test today, and I think it's best to admit you to the hospital for them. Now, the tests are called a CAT scan and an ERCP. It's short for something that even I can't pronounce. He smiled. Poppy just stared at him. There's nothing frightening about either of these tests. The CAT scan is like an X-ray. The ERCP involves passing a tube down the throat and through the stomach and into the pancreas. Then we'll inject the tube of liquid that will show up on the X-rays. His mouth kept moving, but Poppy had stopped hearing the words. She was more frightened than she could ever remember being in a long time. I was just joking about the interesting scar, she thought. I don't want a real disease. I don't want to go to the hospital, and I don't want any tubes down my throat. She looked at her mother with mute appeal. Her mother took her hand. It's no big deal, sweetheart. We'll go home, pack a few things for you, and then we'll come back. I have to go into the hospital today? I think that would be for the best, Dr. Franklin said. Poppy's hand tightened on her mother's. Her mind was humming blank. They left the office. Her mother said, Thank you, Owen. Poppy had never heard her call Dr. Franklin by his first name before. Poppy didn't ask why. She didn't say anything as they walked out of the building and got in the car. As they drove her home, her mother began to chat about ordinary things in a light, calm voice, and Poppy made herself answer, pretending that everything was normal, while all the time a terrible, sick feeling raged inside her. It was only when they were in her bedroom, picking out mystery books and cotton PJs into a small suitcase, that she asked almost casually, So what exactly does he think is wrong with me? Her mother didn't answer immediately. She was looking down at the suitcase. Finally, she said, Well, he's not sure anything is wrong. But what does he think? He must think something. And the way he was talking about my pancreas, it sounds like he thinks there's something wrong with my pancreas. I thought he was looking at my gallbladder or whatever. I don't even know what my pancreas is involved with this. Sweetheart. Her mother took her by the shoulder, and Poppy realized she was getting a little overwrought. She took a deep breath. I just want to know the truth, okay? I just want to have some idea of what's going on. It's my body, and I've got a right to know what they're looking for. don't I? It was a brave speech, and she didn't mean any of it. What she really wanted was reassurance, a promise that Dr. Franklin was looking for something trivial, that the worst that could happen wouldn't be so bad. She didn't get it. Yes, you do have a right to know. Her mother let out a long breath and then spoke slowly. Poppy, Dr. Franklin was concerned about your pancreas all along. Apparently, things can happen with in the pancreas that causes changes in other organs, like the gallbladder and liver. When Dr. Franklin felt those changes, he decided to check things out with the sonogram. Poppy swallowed, and he said the sonogram was unusual. How unusual? Poppy, this is all preliminary. Her mother saw her face and sighed. She went on reluctantly. The sonogram showed that there might be something in your pancreas, something that shouldn't be there. That's why Dr. Franklin wants other tests. They'll tell us for sure, but something that shouldn't be there? You mean like a tumor? Like cancer? Strange. It was hard to say the words. Her mother nodded once. Yes, like cancer. And that's the end of chapter 2 of the Secret Vampire book of Night World. Next video we'll pick up on chapter 3, but as you can tell, my voice is starting to get tired, and I'm already half hour in, so I'm gonna call this a night. I love y'all. I hope you have a wonderful night. Sleep well, all that stuff. I'll try to update a bit more frequently, so I'll let y'all know when that happens. I'll see y'all. Night.